In the vast history of medicine and human life, one question has always lingered like a quiet riddle whispered into our collective imagination: why do some people never seem to get sick? We all know the sensation of an illness creeping in, the weakening of the body, the weight of fatigue, the fever rising as if nature is gently forcing us to slow down. Yet scattered across the world, in hidden villages, in busy cities, in quiet families passed down through the centuries, there are individuals who appear to live outside this shared human rhythm. They do not fall ill in the ways most of us do, and when disease touches the lives around them, these people remain strangely untouched, as if protected by an invisible shield. This mysterious strength is what scientists cautiously call immunity, but within these rare humans it becomes something greater, something extraordinary, something approaching the impossible. Imagine living in a society where a cold sweeps through schools in the winter. Entire clusters of people lie in bed wrapped in blankets, their bodies preparing for days of recovery, yet one child runs through the playground untouched, breathing freely, smiling in the snow. Imagine a pandemic spreading across countries, filling headlines with stories of fear and loss, and somewhere, in quiet obscurity, a group of men and women pass through it as if their bodies hold a secret medicine from within. The story of these people, those we might call the superimmune, is not only a scientific curiosity but also a deep reminder of how the human species carries within itself mysteries that remain largely unsolved. The opening of this exploration is not intended to dazzle with sharp conclusions, nor to shock with dramatic visions. Instead, it is a soft unveiling, like drawing back a curtain to reveal the gentle glow of dawn. Across this journey we will wander among possibilities, listen to the whispers of genes and cells, and pause to imagine lives touched not by illness but by a lasting and resilient health. The superimmune are not invincible, but the relationship between their bodies and disease is dramatically altered, leaving them in a realm where common vulnerabilities lose their hold. Science approaches them with cautious respect. Some are studied in laboratories where blood samples are handled with care under sterile lights, while questions rise like smoke into the still air: how can one person defy a virus that has taken millions? How can one community resist the devastation of a disease that brought others to their knees? Could the answers lie deep within the code of life, written in the subtle shifts of DNA, the silent spelling of proteins, or in the hidden rhythms that guide the immune system? Each clue is like a faint footprint in wet sand, ready to be studied before the tide of time washes it away. For those preparing to drift toward sleep, this is not a story of urgency but of wonder. Allow the thought to linger like a gentle light: the body is a landscape, immense and intricate, with stretches of possibility yet undiscovered. In every heartbeat, in every breath, in every cell, there are guardians shaped by evolution, protectors honed across countless generations. Yet in a few among us, the guardians are stronger, quicker, more resilient in their timeless duty. These are the people who almost never fall sick, who pass quietly through the storms of illness touched but not broken, protected by something rare and almost mythic. The mystery of the superimmune begins with the ordinary fact that all human beings share the same fragile biology. Flesh and bone, blood and breath, living tissue perpetually vulnerable to invasion. Viruses do not stop to question their victims. Bacteria do not politely excuse themselves. We are, by nature, unfinished systems always being tested. And yet within that vulnerability is the paradox, the handful of individuals whose protection seems enhanced beyond expectation. Just as some flowers bloom longer under the harsh sun, just as certain trees resist storms that level entire forests, certain people defy the natural order of susceptibility. As you listen, you may picture these individuals not as superheroes, not as figures in comic books, but as ordinary men and women. They sit at dinner tables, they walk across crowded markets, they climb staircases, they laugh with friends. Outwardly nothing about them marks the difference, yet inside their cells unfolds a different story, a quieter resilience forged not in willpower but in the unseen design of their inner architecture. They remind us that every human being carries the possibility of variation, and sometimes that variation becomes the means of survival. The beginning of our story will linger here, in quiet contemplation. With each detail, a thread is woven, suggesting that the superimmune are not isolated anomalies but living keys to the hidden puzzle of health. They challenge what we think we know about biology, and they offer a glimpse into futures where their strength might one day be shared. As night deepens and thoughts turn softer, let this curiosity settle in the mind like a steady flame. There are those among us who have never truly been sick, those whose immunity writes a different destiny, and they are waiting for us to listen. When we begin to think of the body, we often picture it from the outside, a form we can touch and see, a familiar silhouette reflected in mirrors. Yet beneath this surface there stretches a vast interior wilderness, more intricate than any forest, more mysterious than the deepest ocean. It is a realm in constant motion, where rivers carry information, where armies of unseen guardians patrol ceaselessly, and where messages of danger and safety travel in waves too small for the eye to capture. This hidden landscape is the immune system, and in its quiet power, it is both fragile and astonishing. Each breath we take carries not only air but also dust, invisible spores, fragments of life that float freely around us. Each step we take brings with it the touch of surfaces where countless unseen microbes linger. From the moment of birth, the immune system rises into motion, a watchful network designed to know what belongs and what does not. It is shaped not only by the ancient memory of our species but also by the intimate experiences of each life. Every childhood illness, every encounter with bacteria or virus, leaves a small record behind, an imprint that strengthens the sentinels within. Imagine the first line of defense, the skin, stretching like a vast wall that surrounds a city. It seals us against intrusion, keeping out much of what threatens. But when something does cross beyond that wall, the immune system unfurls its deeper layers. There are soldiers that act quickly, cells designed to recognize a pattern that signals danger. There are messengers that signal alarm, carrying word throughout the inner terrain. And there are specialized forces, cells that learn and remember, able to recognize an invader not just once but again and again across decades. These are not conscious beings, yet their work appears intelligent, deliberate, as if the body carries within itself a silent counsel that decides our fate. For most of humanity, this counsel operates with remarkable efficiency yet also with weakness. We fall ill, we recover, we sometimes fail to recover. Illness is a part of human life, a reminder of our imperfection. But within the superimmune, the system does not behave quite the same. It reacts with a strength that seems disproportionate to the threat, or with a subtle precision that removes danger before symptoms ever appear. For them, infection may occur, but it does not linger. Their bodies may encounter the same germs that weaken those around them, yet their inner wilderness clears the threat with little struggle, as if the script has been rewritten in their favor. Consider for a moment how extraordinary this is. Imagine a virus slipping into the airways. For most, fever would rise within hours, exhaustion would spread, the body would enter a contest of energy against invasion. But for the immune-privileged, the virus hardly has a chance to begin. The early soldiers of immunity act almost instantly. The signals of alarm are faster, sharper, more effective. The virus that would spread wildly in another body is halted with startling efficiency. Sometimes the virus is not even detectable within them, as though the body erases all trace before science can capture evidence. These people do not feel themselves to be different. They may not even know what protection they carry. Yet to researchers, they are living mysteries, examples of what human health can become at its strongest. When scientists peer into their blood, the cells tell stories. Some display enhanced recognition abilities, like seasoned guards with long training. Others seem endlessly youthful, as though their core functions resist the wear and tear of time. In rare cases, genetic modifications, natural mutations carried silently from parent to child, provide a gate that shuts certain diseases out entirely. To the naked eye, these individuals are ordinary. But beneath the skin, each moment is an act of resilience, a promise of survival. There is something deeply humbling about this idea. We think of disease as a force beyond us, as something we must endure or fight through. Yet among our own species are people in whom nature has tilted the balance. They live with a gift not of wealth or power but of resistance, of quiet defense. They may never know the suffering of certain fevers, the long recoveries, the fear of contagion. Instead, they walk through the same crowded streets as the rest of us, breathing the same air, touched by the same currents of danger, and remain unaffected. In them lies an untold potential, hints of what humanity might one day strive to achieve for all. To understand this is not to envy them but to feel wonder. It is to picture the immune system not as something fixed but as something that can stretch and evolve. Evolution has always been at work within us, recording victories over ancient plagues in the very codes of our DNA. The superimmune are not accidents but outcomes of a story long in motion, where survival carved its signature into the generations that followed. Their existence reminds us that humanity is never static. We are constantly changing, carrying forward small victories of resilience, led upon one another across the ages until they emerge as individuals who appear untouchable by sickness. Even within ordinary lives, hints of this resilience can be found. A child who never seems to catch the flu. An adult who moves through decades without colds or infections. Families where longevity and health are repeated, not because of luck, but because of subtle inheritances written in blood. These are not legends, they are testaments to the quiet diversity of our species. And every story deepens our understanding of what it means to live in a body this uncertain yet extraordinary vessel of flesh, bone, memory, and defense. As sleep begins to draw upon the edges of thought, the rhythm slows. Picture the immune system as a calm, vigilant ocean, surface quiet but underneath alive with currents and tides. No storm passes unnoticed. No current flows without answer. In the superimmune body, this ocean responds with perfect timing, smoothing away danger before it breaks into waves. It is not a conscious act. It is a natural gift, a hidden harmony between body and environment. It resonates like a quiet music, always playing, protecting without applause. Perhaps somewhere in the near future, our deepest investigations into these people will open doors for all of us. By studying them, scientists may learn not only how immunity can be strengthened but also how balance can be restored when it falters. Treatments might emerge that no longer simply fight disease but instead enhance the natural defenses asleep within us. Vaccines, medicines, and therapies might evolve to awaken dormant protective forces, allowing more of humanity to share in the gift the superimmune already carry. In this way, the mystery becomes hope, not merely a curiosity locked within laboratories but a future waiting to unfold. The quiet fascination of their existence is that it connects us all to a possibility beyond the ordinary. As you drift further into rest, let your thoughts linger gently on this idea, that somewhere within the human story is the capacity for extraordinary health, for unseen resilience, for immunity amplified beyond apparent limits. The narrative of the superimmune is not only a testament to individual lives but also a vision of what all humans may someday become. Just as stars scattered across the night sky appear singular but in truth form constellations, these resilient individuals remind us that each life contributes to a wider pattern. The gift of their immunity is not isolated, it is a beacon guiding us forward. And so the journey continues, softly flowing deeper into both science and wonder, a place where biology meets mystery, where knowledge meets imagination. The immune system is more than cells, more than memory, more than the walls and gates that keep us safe. It is a story written moment by moment, adapting, remembering, passing its lessons from generation to generation. In the superimmune, that story is brighter, clearer, more enduring. To listen to it is to be reminded that within every breath there is resilience, and within every human body there is the possibility of something beyond what we know. In the long corridors of human history, illness has always been a constant shadow. Plague swept across landscapes, villages were emptied, families broken. Epidemics rose like sudden storms, reshaping societies, rewriting cultures, carving fear and resilience into memory. And yet, as these waves of suffering swept over human populations, there were always those who survived, figures who seemed strangely untouched, immune in ways that defied explanation. They became the ancestors who carried humanity forward, not only through strength or chance, but through something deeply written into their biology, something embedded in their cells. This inheritance has taken countless forms, but among the most striking are those rare individuals able to withstand devastating illnesses without falling ill themselves. Science gives them names, but their existence feels closer to legend. In modern medicine, certain people are described as controllers, individuals whose bodies suppress diseases others cannot hold back. Some are known as resistors, born with variations in their genetic code that deny viruses a doorway, leaving disease knocking on a door that will never open. Others are survivors, those who pass through the chaos of pandemic scarred yet unbroken, their blood carrying memories of a biological triumph that outlasted disaster. They stand collectively as proof that the human body can, at times, hold strength beyond what we imagine possible. Among the most studied of these individuals are those known to live with viruses that should have consumed them. Human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, once represented a sentence of inevitable decline, yet scattered among the global population are people who carry the virus with no sign of sickness, no descent into collapse. Their bodies do not merely resist the disease, they control it, suppressing its power so completely that the virus becomes a silent passenger, unable to strike. These unique patients, often called elite controllers, defied early medical certainty. Doctors watched them with a mixture of disbelief and wonder as test after test showed what should not have been possible. Within them, a virus that overwhelmed millions across the world becomes subdued, locked away by the quiet determination of their immune system. For researchers, every drop of blood from such a person becomes precious. Within it lies a story still being written. Some cells show extraordinary vigilance, capable of recognizing infected cells more swiftly than in ordinary patients. Some reveal a persistence of memory, an ability to sustain vigilance long after other immune systems tire. And sometimes, the difference lies in subtle genetic variations, changes so small within the sequence of DNA but so profound in their effect that a virus like HIV cannot even begin its work. It is as if a lock that exists on nearly every human cell has, in these rare individuals, been removed or changed, leaving viruses searching eternally for an entrance that does not exist. This phenomenon carries us into an even deeper mystery. How many other diseases, across the long line of human history, met resistance in certain families, in certain individuals whose bodies denied them entry? In the time of the Great Plagues, when entire towns fell, there were those who remained standing, not by chance but by quiet resistance carried within their blood. In the modern age, we have begun to uncover these patterns by looking backward, decoding stories evolution has left us. For example, variations in certain genes, passed quietly across centuries, provide humans with natural shields against diseases like smallpox or malaria. They show us that survival is not just endurance but adaptation, written silently across generations until it emerges as resilience in flesh and bone. Think of survival not as triumph but as continuity. Somewhere, in every family lineage, there were illnesses faced and defeated. Sometimes victory came with scars, survival hard-earned, passed on in immunity and resistance to descendants. Other times victory came invisibly, as when a mutation altered a single protein, shifting an entire family line into strength against an ancient enemy. Entire human populations carry such marks, echoes of battles fought so long ago that those fighters are now dust beneath the earth, but their legacy lives on in the unassuming chemistry of modern cells. To acknowledge this is to realize that within every immune system is the memory of countless struggles, layers of inherited whispers, guiding responses before we are even born. The people who never fall ill remind us of what in biology appears almost magical. But it is not magic. It is pattern, selection, inheritance. Yet the poetry of their existence is undeniable. Imagine a woman standing in the center of a community ravaged by influenza, her neighbors weakened around her, and yet she rises healthy day after day. Imagine a man living through a long epidemic, untouched by the fever that sweeps through his family. They become observers of disaster, carrying blood that holds the answers others perish for lacking. In these stories lies the deep truth of immunity not as a wall but as a dance between predator and prey, invader and defender, chance and destiny. Even in the present, echoes of pandemics teach us these lessons anew. The recent sweep of a global virus reminded us again of vulnerability, of fragility, of the uncertainty of each breath. Yet across that spread, scientists found curious data. People exposed over and over yet never infected, or experiencing infection so gentle they carried no trace of harm. The reasons are complex, sometimes environment, sometimes behavior. But sometimes it is something greater, something coded deep within the immune system, aligned in such a way that what threatens others becomes nothing more than a fleeting shadow. These individuals become natural experiments for science, unplanned but invaluable. They embody questions. What if their immune system's vigilance could be taught to others? What if the enhancements in their cells might be replicated, not through natural inheritance but through medicine? Could the resilience of the few one day become the norm for the many? In their blood, the possibility of vaccines more potent than any we know. In their genes, the potential to foresee and block future pandemics. In their stories, inspiration for researchers who dream not only of curing illness but of preventing it entirely. And yet, to speak of their resistance is also to speak of balance. Too much immune power can become destructive, turning defenders into aggressors, harming the very body they are meant to protect. Autoimmune disease is the shadow of this strength, a reminder that even the superimmune walk a thin line. Not every deviation is a gift. Not every variation protects. Some unleash storms within the body itself. Thus, the beauty of those who never seem to fall ill is not simply in violent strength but in harmony, in immune systems that know not only how to attack but how to stand down, resting in perfect balance with the self. As the story unfolds, it becomes something more than medicine. It becomes a meditation on life itself, on how survival and vulnerability coexist in each of us. The people who never fall ill are beacons, not because they are so different that we cannot imagine them, but because they reveal what parts of ourselves might one day awaken. The resilience is not alien, it is human, deeply human, lying dormant in possibility. And so, the listener can drift deeper into wonder, held gently in the thought that health, in its purest form, is not an unreachable miracle. It is already among us, carried quietly in the blood of those who seem untouched by disease. As you sink into rest, let these images become dreamlike. Picture cells flowing endlessly like stars across dark waters, glowing faintly, communicating silently, protecting wordlessly. Somewhere, in a body unknown, those stars shine brighter, more enduring, guardians that will not falter. What is mystery today may become knowledge tomorrow, and what is gift in the few may someday be a promise to all. And the story stretches further, unbroken, carrying you deeper into reflection across time, into the soft and endless horizon of the human body's hidden strength. As we wander further into the mystery, the story deepens and the questions grow softer yet somehow more profound. Why are some bodies marked by extraordinary resistance, while others, sharing the same air and the same world, remain vulnerable? To approach this question is to approach not only biology, but the entire arc of human survival, for throughout our history it has always been immunity seen or unseen that shaped who continued and who was lost. In the earliest times, long before science gave language to these mysteries, survival itself hinted at invisible gifts. Tribes living through harsh winters suffered waves of infection, and many could not rise again after fever. Yet some endured, not through medicines or rituals, but because their bodies carried quiet power. They did not know why, but their children inherited that same unseen shield, and the tribe continued forward. We are all descended from such victories, every heartbeat carrying evidence that our ancestors once resisted an illness others could not. History itself is written in our immune systems, chapter by chapter, disease by disease, triumph and tragedy spiraling into the present moment. The human immune system is not one thing, not a single organ or single weapon, but a harmony of many parts. It is a careful choreography of barriers, messengers, memory, and attack. When working in balance, this harmony keeps us walking forward through the world, able to live among countless microbes. But for those who rarely or never become sick, the harmony is heightened, the rhythm sharper, the balance sustained for decades without falter. Their barriers are stronger, their signals clearer, their memory more precise. Illness approaches and slips away, seldom noticed, like a shadow passing across the ground. Scientists have often looked to genetics for answers, and indeed, many clues lie threaded in our chromosomes. A small variation in a particular gene can change how a virus enters cells, how a receptor responds, or how vigorously defenders rise to action. To most people, these changes are invisible, silent mutations carried like small accidents in the long copying of DNA. But in those rare cases where the accidents become protection, we see a glimpse of evolution's greatest tool, imperfection that transforms into survival. It is not designed, not intentional, yet over time it builds resilience that spreads through families, sometimes across entire populations. One of the clearest examples lies in those who resist certain pandemics. During the darkest plagues, entire regions were reshaped, and yet some lines of families survived not by isolation but by resistance. Generations later, scientists studying blood samples discovered changes in specific genes that blocked the very doorways viruses once used to infiltrate. It is as though tragedy carved its mark into the human code, ensuring it would not repeat with such force again. Every pandemic leaves behind survivors, but some of those survivors are unique. They do not merely endure but carry resistance that changes the destiny of those who follow. In this way, history and biology are bound together, each influencing the other, each whispering across centuries. Within every resilient body there is also an ongoing dialogue between environment and genetics. For though genes may prepare the foundation, life experience shapes what is built upon it. A child exposed to a diversity of surroundings, to varied foods, soils, and microbes, may build defenses different from one raised in sterile isolation. Our immune system learns constantly, adapting itself to the world it encounters. But for those who seem protected from almost everything, it may be both, genes quietly tilted towards strength, and lives enriched by subtle exposures that train the system into remarkable sharpness. Out of this meeting between what is inherited and what is experienced emerges resilience that feels almost superhuman. There have always been stories whispered of those who never seemed to age in illness, who walked untouched among the frail. Ancient texts describe people clear of plague, families spared where neighbors fell. These were often seen as blessed or protected by higher forces, and while legend grew around their names, what they carried was not divine armor but human variation. Today, stripped of myth but clothed in science, their resilience still carries a sense of reverence. To consider their existence is to consider the vast possibility that lies latent in all of us, waiting for discovery, waiting to be awakened. And yet, we must linger with caution. The immune system is not merely strong or weak, it is delicate. Too strong, and it may turn inward, attacking its own tissues, mistaking self for enemy. Too weak, and we collapse under the most common threats. The superimmune live not only with elevated defense, but with refined balance, their bodies knowing when to fight and when to remain at rest. It is this balance that sustains their health through the years, a silent wisdom held in cells, guiding vigilance with restraint. Here lies part of the mystery. Their immunity is not fire that burns everything in its path, but light that illuminates danger without consuming the self. The more we understand them, the greater the hope for the future of medicine. Already, the blood of such individuals has offered clues for treatments against deadly diseases. Antibodies shaped by their bodies' encounters with illness have been studied, replicated, and in some cases used to protect others in times of outbreak. The blueprint of their immunity has shown scientists what might be possible if we could teach ordinary immune systems to respond the same way. Each time a discovery is made, we come closer to asking, could medicine move from treating disease toward granting immunity as profound as theirs? Could one person's natural shield become the world's shared protection? But let us not hurry. For this is not a story of urgency but a lullaby of mystery, fit for slow thought, for quiet listening. Imagine for yourself cells flowing through veins like glowing lanterns against a dark stream, immune defenders moving, pausing, speaking in signals we cannot hear. They carry histories older than memory, instructions born in countless generations. They do their work wordlessly, repairing, defending, listening. To close your eyes and picture them is to sense the immense order within us, an unseen universe as complex and beautiful as the night sky. Somewhere, someone breathes tonight with blood that holds the power to resist nearly every common illness. They do not think of it, they do not know it, but the universe within them glows more brightly than most. Their story is hidden, unnoticed, but it may hold the key to the protection of millions. For what is resilience if not a reminder that life itself always seeks to continue, to endure, to offer possibility? And so, as these hidden guardians walk quietly among us, they carry not only strength for themselves but a vision of strength for the whole of humanity. If science continues to trace the map within their cells, we may one day open doors that lead to a world where sickness is no longer constant, where children do not grow within endless cycles of infection, where the threat of pandemic softens. Perhaps the rare immunity of a few can one day become the ordinary condition of the many. It is a dream, but every dream has roots in reality, and every discovery brings us closer to touching it. As you listen, allow this vision to unfold gently around you, like a story told slowly by the sea. The people who almost never fall ill are not distant miracles, they are human, profoundly human, yet carrying within them a gift. Their existence is a reminder that survival is not only about endurance but about hidden brilliance that shines in ways we cannot always measure. It is a call to wonder, to patience, and to hope, carrying us forward, letting thoughts drift toward the horizon of possibility as the body, too, drifts into rest. There is a certain quiet majesty in knowing that every human life is a map of survival. Within our cells live the echoes of battles that stretch farther back than memory, farther even than written history. To begin to explore this is to move gently into the paradox of fragility and strength. The human body appears delicate, easily wounded, easily broken. And yet at the same time, it is a fortress of astonishing resilience. Within it are layers of defense honed across millions of years, layers strong enough to keep us alive in a world filled with endless threats. For most people, these defenses falter at times. They yield to fever, to infection, to exhaustion. But there are some whose fortresses seem impenetrable, whose walls hold steady against tides that overwhelm others. They live among us quietly, the carriers of extraordinary resilience. To imagine their immune system is to imagine a symphony playing endlessly in perfect pitch. Most of us hear stumbles and pauses in the music of our bodies. A cold unsettles us, a cough lingers, a virus brings days of weakness. But for them, the melody flows uninterrupted. Each instrument of immunity is tuned with precision, the barriers untouched, the signals swift, the memory immediate. Invaders that sneak past one layer are greeted by another, and then another, until they vanish before symptoms surface. It is not drama, not noise, but quiet control, so seamless that the individual may never realize the miracle happening within. Science, in its steady patience, bends closer to observe. Blood is tested, cells isolated, genetic codes read with hungry precision. Hidden in that code are answers written in the smallest of letters, in sequences so tiny yet so powerful they change the shape of life itself. A subtle shift in one receptor, and a virus cannot enter. A small alteration in one protein, and disease collapses before it begins. Each clue feels both monumental and humbling, showing us how much of health rests not in medicines we create, but in the ancient biology we carry unknowingly within. But immunity is not only written in genes, it is written in experience. Imagine a child crawling on the earth, hands in the soil, mouth tasting the textures of the world. That child's immune system awakens to thousands of encounters, learning, storing, building a vocabulary of defense. Another child, held always away from danger, grows more slowly in protection, their defenses untested, hesitant. There are people who, through a blend of inheritance and exposure, build shields that become nearly unbreakable. Their bodies are not armored against life but open to it, learning so well that illness cannot find an easy foothold. They walk freely through seasons of disease and remain untouched. There are stories of explorers, traveling into places filled with risks unknown to their peers, who return unharmed. There are families in which generation after generation passes without record of serious illness. There are individuals whose bodies carry rare antibodies with remarkable strength, antibodies that last decades, offering protection far beyond what medicine alone has achieved. These are not isolated miracles, but parts of the long spectrum of immunity that lives within humanity. We think sickness is universal, but perhaps resilience is just as universal, existing in degrees not always visible until placed in extreme circumstance. The people who never fall ill remind us that life is never distributed evenly. Just as some have voices that resonate across crowds, some have hands that shape art with ease, some have minds that see numbers as music, there are those whose bodies hold a form of strength that is silent but beyond ordinary. They are not invulnerable, not immortal, but they live in a balance that makes them appear untouchable. Their story is not about invincibility but about hidden variation, the endless diversity of human experience. In the quiet work of researchers, there is reverence for these individuals. Every time an immune cell from a superimmune person is placed under a lens, hope stirs. For what if these defenses can be understood, taught, applied? What if their immunity is not just personal but a map available to all? Already, glimpses have appeared. In laboratories, antibodies drawn from naturally resilient people have been used against illnesses that spread with terror. In times of outbreak, their unique immune responses have offered clues that guided vaccines and therapies. And slowly, possibility grows, that we may one day harness their resilience not as mystery but as gift, shared across the human family. It is tempting to see them as more than human, as something higher or beyond, but that is not the truth. Their strength is profoundly human, born of the same processes that shape us all. They are reminders of what lies within us, even if hidden. They are not above us but among us, walking the same streets, breathing the same air, sharing the same challenges of daily life. That is part of the beauty of their existence. They are ordinary in every way except for the extraordinary resilience carried in their cells. Consider for a moment the poetic image of their blood. Within its flowing rivers, billions of cells patrol, watching, listening, remembering. Each has a role, each carries knowledge written over ages. In the superimmune, these rivers move with uncommon harmony, as though the waters themselves are clearer, stronger, untroubled. To imagine it is to imagine a secret constellation humming inside them, unseen yet vast, a universe as large as the night sky contained within a single body. That is what immunity truly is, a constellation of guardians, each shining in its place, holding back the darkness. History continues to remind us that without these rare individuals, humanity might not have carried forward as it has. Without survivors of plague, without those resistant to hidden viruses, the threads of lineage would have broken. Our very existence proves that immunity is not rare, but vital. The superimmune may represent the highest peaks of this mountain, but the mountain itself is built into all of us. For each struggle overcome, each adaptation carried, becomes part of our inheritance. Their story is our story, lifted to its brightest point. As you listen, drifting slowly deeper into rest, imagine the long arc of human survival. Imagine generations fading into one another, children born from survivors, mothers carrying resilience in their wombs, fathers passing strength in their blood. Imagine lineages continuing through fire, through storm, through famine, because of a hidden light that illness could not extinguish. That continuity led to you, here, now. And among us, it still shines in those who cannot be easily touched by disease. To reflect on them is to feel humbled, but also to feel a kind of peace. For they prove that resilience is not fantasy. It is reality, found in flesh and blood. They prove that the story of life is not only about fragility and loss, but about unseen victories. Science may someday capture their secret fully, but even before that knowledge arrives, we can pause in awe at their quiet existence. They are living testaments that the human body is capable of more than we know, proof that health is not only a fleeting condition but, for some, a steady companion that remains through the decades. And so, the story continues without urgency, without sharpness, but like a gentle river moving ever onward. Each word a ripple, each thought a drifting leaf, each pause a reminder that all things are connected, past, present, future, fragility and strength, sickness and resilience, the ordinary and the extraordinary. Within this flow lies the quiet mystery of those who never seem to fall ill, a mystery that carries us deeper into reflection and deeper into rest. The journey of understanding the rare immunity some people carry draws us now into the most intricate chambers of biology, into the hidden architecture of blood and breath where survival is decided quietly, without fanfare. Up until now we have considered their mystery in gentle outlines, their resilience, their rare adaptations, their living proof of survival's victories, but if we step slowly deeper still, we enter a space where every detail feels luminous, where science and wonder blend into one quiet unfolding. Inside every human body, millions of signals sparking every second sustain the delicate distinction between health and disease. The immune cells themselves are countless white blood cells flowing like quiet currents, antibodies drifting like small lanterns, macrophages patrolling like elder guardians, memory cells holding the stories of every invader faced. It is an epic unfolding constantly just beneath awareness, a ballet of vigilance that continues even as we sleep, even as we dream. In most of us, this system has flaws, intervals of weakness where invaders slip past. In the rare, resilient few, the harmony is closer to perfection. The rhythms line up, the signals flow without error, and illness is contained before it takes form. To imagine it is to imagine a village guarded by watchmen who never grow weary. In ordinary lives, the sentinels tire, grow careless, miss the shadows creeping at dusk. But in certain lives, the watchmen are tireless, alert with precision beyond expectation. They notice the slightest movement. They remember every foe they have ever encountered. In such bodies, disease attempts to enter but is recognized instantly, and like smoke against the wind it disperses before it can ignite. This raises the question whispered so often in research halls: are these people simply lucky, or are they windows into the future of medicine? For each resilient person, countless others have fallen to the same sickness. Yet in their blood exists the possibility to teach the wider world how to resist. Discoveries of rare antibodies have already reshaped vaccines. Clues from unique genetic codes have guided therapies. Each insight brings hope that someday the extraordinary may become ordinary, that what is rare now will one day be shared universally. If we look back into history, we find their shadows everywhere. Survivors of the plague in medieval villages, communities scarred by disease yet carrying families untouched, survivors of cholera, who unknowingly possessed protective variations in cellular pathways, survivors of smallpox who passed on resistance through blood lines. Each epidemic burned fiercely but left behind pieces of knowledge engraved invisibly into the population. Over centuries these engravings accumulated, until certain individuals emerged carrying the embodied memory of all that came before. They do not know this memory consciously but live it, their cells replaying silent rehearsals of victory against invisible threats. The metaphor of memory is key to understanding immunity. Every immune system is a storyteller, recording encounters, updating tactics. For most, the stories are incomplete, fragile, easily disrupted. For a rare few, the stories are vivid, meticulously recorded, repeated with clarity across decades. An old invader returns, and their body reacts within hours as if the battle had happened yesterday. That precision is what prevents illness from even showing itself. To live in such a body is to move through the world freely, unaware that constant danger lurks nearby but unable to touch you deeply. Yet immunity is not only memory. It is also balanced knowing when not to fight. Some of the healthiest people are not those who fight the hardest, but those whose defenses are more restrained, who avoid the collateral damage of overreaction. For all its brilliance, the immune system is also dangerous when misguided. Fevers that burn too hot, coughs that shred the lungs, inflammations that scar tissues, these are signs of defenders who rush too fiercely into battle. The rare resilient individuals show not just strength but subtlety. Their responses are quick but measured, precise but calm. Their healing completes without leaving deep scars. This balance may be the essence of their gift, immunity not as fire out of control, but as a flame steady and contained, warming without consuming. Researchers studying them have begun to notice patterns in how their immunity works. Genes that prevent viruses from entering cells, proteins that neutralize bacteria before they multiply, receptors finely tuned to distinguish danger from harmless presence. These differences are often tiny by themselves, yet together they shape a fortress that disease struggles to breach. It is humbling to realize that the difference between constant illness and near invulnerability can be the small turning of a single molecular key, the quiet shifting of a structure invisible to the naked eye. The more science uncovers, the more it confronts the poetry of variation. Each human being carries 30 trillion cells, and within them the scripted dance of DNA. No two dances are identical. Within the rare immune, the variations align in extraordinary ways, as if random notes have fallen into harmony. It is the natural lottery of biology, but it is also the hand of history tracing survival into the code. What we see as miracle may simply be accumulation, millions of years building up to the moment when one body resists what strikes down another. But there is something more profound still. Resilience is not only a gift of these individuals, it is a mirror reflecting what might exist in potential within all humans. Perhaps the immunity they display is not unattainable. Perhaps it is slumbering in the rest of us, waiting to be awakened by science, by evolution, by hidden stimuli. Already medicine experiments with awakening dormant potentials, training T cells to target cancers more effectively, teaching immune systems through vaccines to fight pathogens they have never met. The story of immunity is not complete. It is being rewritten each generation, always expanding, always dreaming of more. When we reflect on this mystery in the quiet of night, drifting toward sleep, it becomes a kind of meditation. Close your eyes and picture the bloodstream as a quiet galaxy, stars floating endlessly, watchful planets circling, constellations of memory glowing faintly. Somewhere within that galaxy, in the rare immune, the stars burn brighter, more enduring, more resistant to collapse. They are universes unto themselves, carrying the promise that humanity can withstand even the most invisible of storms. The existence of such bodies changes how we see ourselves. We are no longer fragile creatures isolated in a hostile world, we are species carrying remarkable possibility. Every person, even the most vulnerable, is linked to survivors and resistors of ages past. Every breath is an inheritance, every heartbeat a reminder. To pause with this thought is to feel a strange reassurance that life is tougher than it seems, that even within fragility is resilience so immense it shapes futures we cannot yet imagine. And so, the narrative continues without sharpness, without urgency, only with steady rhythm. To think of those who never fall ill is to think of our shared human journey, the endless search for balance, the beauty of survival folded gently into our very skin. Like waves upon shores, their existence washes over our imagination, soft and endless, lulling us deeper into rest, carrying us further into wonder, and leaving us suspended in the quiet promise that the body is not only a vessel of vulnerability but also a living fortress of strength that, for a fortunate few, never seems to fall. There comes a moment, when dwelling on the story of the super-resilient, that we sense how the mystery is not bound only by the language of science. It stretches outward into philosophy, into poetry, into the very way we experience being alive. To imagine those who almost never fall ill is to ask questions about what it truly means to be vulnerable. What does it reveal when certain individuals walk through epidemics as though through shadows, untouched? What does it mean for the rest of us, watching, suffering, recovering? Their lives become mirrors, reflecting both the fragility of humanity and the astonishing depths of resilience hidden inside it. Every disease in history has left scars not only on bodies, but on cultures and art, on the words we tell each other, on the lullabies mothers whispered to sick children lying feverish through nights of uncertainty. Yet there were other children, lying cool in their beds while sickness raged outside, inexplicably safe. In ancient memory they might have been seen as divine, as specially chosen. In modern eyes they are genetic outliers, rare carriers of protective mutations. But beyond either interpretation is the same truth: resilience is not evenly shaped. Wherever suffering spreads, a few stand unharmed, and in that survival is the seed of continuity itself. The pandemic survivors of history carried with them more than stories of endurance. They carried immunity, the inheritance of exposure, the long-lasting memory of their cells. After the influenza of 1918, after cholera, after smallpox, some survivors became quiet monuments of defense. Their blood, if we could return and draw it even now, would tell us volumes about the lessons their immune systems learned. Time has smoothed away the terror of those years, but hidden still in the biology of descendants are echoes of those ancient battles. The super-immune of today are not isolated accidents. They are the living continuation of ancestry, the expression of millennia of survival embedded in the smallest structures of their bodies. To sit with this thought is to imagine yourself as part of an endless chain, linked through generations by invisible victories. Each of us exists because those before us were never entirely defeated by disease. Some carried scars. Some carried loss. But some carried unshaken resilience. And in their passing of life into the next generation, the code of survival was passed as well. This slow weaving, across thousands of years, culminates in the few whose bodies feel nearly impervious to illness, whose lives embody the victorious side of humanity's fragile struggle with nature. Science may seek to capture this phenomenon with precise terms. It speaks of alleles and mutations, proteins and pathways, antibodies and receptors. It measures levels in blood, percentages of activity, the speed of recognition of foreign particles. And yet, when we speak slowly and reflectively of the phenomenon, we find ourselves drifting into metaphor. It feels natural to compare these immune systems to oceans, vast and serene on the surface but full of deep, unyielding tides. Or to forests, dense and interwoven, impossible to penetrate. Or to constellations, bright within the quiet darkness of the inner body, marking order where chaos wishes to intrude. Let your imagination travel into one of these images now, resting gently as the narrative continues. Picture the immunity of the rare resilient as a vast mountain range. Illness approaches like winds, like avalanches, like storms, but the mountains do not fall. They absorb with patience, redirect with strength, stand unchanged through centuries. Life sheltered in their valleys continues freely, while outside storms rage. This is what it means to live within a body that seldom falls ill. Storms may swirl, but somewhere within the walls are high, unmoving, the guardian certain and calm. And yet, even as we drift into admiration, it is worth remembering that perfect immunity is not without shadows. We know too well that the immune system can betray its keeper. Too much vigilance, too great a defense, and the body begins to harm itself. Where ordinary people may fall prey to infection, others fall prey to their own defenses turned inward. The rare resilient are not those burning too hot, but those in balance. They may be spared both the collapse of infection and the firestorm of autoimmunity. This balance is the secret, and balance may be the rarest gift of all. Imagine now the way scientists look at such individuals. To them, these lives are living libraries, archives that cannot be manufactured. Each resilient person is a volume of hidden knowledge. Their cells are chapters, their proteins paragraphs, their antibodies single sentences in a story few will ever read in full. The dream of medicine is to learn to read these books clearly, to copy their messages, to share their wisdom across entire populations. If such knowledge could be harnessed, then immunity would no longer be uneven. The resilience of the few could spread to the many. Disease would shift from inevitable suffering into manageable rarity. Entire futures could change. And so the narrative leads us gently forward, layer after layer. From the smallest levels of molecules to the wide sweep of civilization's enduring plague, all is bound by this truth: there are always some among us who do not fall sick, who continue unharmed, who carry within them protections unknown to the rest. Like an unbroken thread woven through time, they represent a continuity of health, a possibility that flickers just at the edge of what humanity dares to imagine. The mystery pulls us deeper. In the stillness of night, as minds soften, we find comfort in the thought that not all stories of illness end in fragility. Some end in triumph so quiet the world almost forgets. Some are never even noticed, as when a virus arrives but finds no entrance into a resistant body. These invisible victories happen daily, unmarked by history but powerful in their suggestion. They remind us that immunity is not just defensive, it is creative, it shapes the story of who we become. Without those victories, no one would be here to wonder, to reflect, to dream. And as you listen, as words fall gently around you, perhaps you too will sense that the borders between science and wonder are thin. The immune system is scientific, yes, but it is also poetic, mystical, filled with imagery that comforts as much as it informs. It is unknowable yet intimate, hidden yet constantly at work. The people who never become sick are not separate from the rest, but deeply connected, proof of something larger, that within humanity lies an immense range of possibility, fragile, resilient, destructive, and creative all at once. Allow these thoughts to flow, like water through channels long carved into stone. There is no need for urgency here, no demand for certainty, only the lull of reflection. The resilient few may always remain mysterious, but in their mystery is a steadying presence. They remind us that perhaps the line between sickness and health is more fluid than we thought. Perhaps within us all lies untapped capacity, unawakened strength, awaiting discovery in time. As the narration drifts toward pause, let the image hold, somewhere out there, tonight, someone breathes free while disease touches every household around them. Somewhere a body holds firm when the storm presses hard against the walls. Somewhere the immune system sings in perfect tune, quiet and tireless, guarding life from harm. That harmony is real, it lives within the lucky few, and it whispers of a future where harmony might not be rare, but shared. And while that future sleeps ahead of us, you too may drift into rest, held by the soft possibility of strength that never fails, and resilience that never breaks. The story of immunity does not exist only in the coded folds of DNA, nor in the secret choreography of cells. It also writes itself in the way we live, in the air we breathe, the food we eat, the soils beneath our feet, and the relationships we forge with the world around us. The rare individuals who seem untouched by illness carry not only the whispers of ancestral genetics but also the imprints of environment and experience. Their strength is not purely an accident of biology, it is also a dialogue with the spaces where they live, the challenges they face, and the subtle exposures that train their defenses into resilience. When we look closely at childhood, we see it as the training ground of immunity. A child exploring freely, touching textures, tasting the world, introducing their young body to microcosms invisible to the eye, is not merely learning about the outer world but teaching their immune system to distinguish friend from foe. Each encounter becomes a small lesson. Some of these lessons result in illness, teaching through discomfort and recovery. Others slip by unnoticed, a silent conversation between body and environment. Over years, these encounters compose a library of recognition, building resilience brick by brick until the child grows into an adult prepared to withstand the constant tide of invisible life around them. For the super resilient, this learning may be deeper, or quicker, or more precise. Their immune systems may record with sharper accuracy. Their recoveries may be so swift they hardly notice the illness attempting to settle in. They live surrounded by the same challenges as the rest, yet emerge unshaken, as though their inner libraries are written with clarity beyond comparison. To them, each encounter with the world strengthens protection rather than testing it. Where others accumulate weakness, they accumulate armor, layer after layer, until disease flows against them like wind against stone. It is tempting to imagine them living separate from the rest of us, but that is not the truth. They still breathe the same polluted city air, walk through the same crowded markets, and face the same weather, yet their bodies answer these challenges with fluent ease. Their resilience reminds us that environment does not act alone, nor does genetics act alone. It is the meeting place between what is within us and what surrounds us that decides how health unfolds. The resilience of the rare may therefore be read as a perfect conversation, a lifelong dialogue between body and world, never breaking down into confusion, always alive with balance. We might look to certain cultures for clues. Communities whose diets are rich in diverse plants, communities who live closely with animals, villages where children roam among natural landscapes, all these provide immune systems with rich training. While modern science has begun to describe this under the language of microbiomes, diversity of bacteria, and immune conditioning, the poetic truth is simpler: life lived among life builds strength. Some bodies, given this natural abundance, respond with extraordinary resilience, becoming almost incapable of collapse. Similarly, those who grow in sterile isolation may find defenses pale, untested, collapsing under the first major strain. Our age has revealed another aspect of this: the contrast between urban and rural, the difference between immune profiles of those who live amid the dense interactions of cities and those who dwell in open countryside. Each environment shapes its people differently. Yet among both, the rare immune continue to stand apart. In laboratories, it is discovered again and again, no matter how harsh the environment, there are always a few whose bodies transcend the circumstances. Their inner defenses adapt, evolve, adjust, and hold strong. The pattern repeats across landscapes and histories, suggesting that something universal and enduring whispers within certain individuals, preparing them to thrive where others fall. If one listens closely to these stories, there is a rhythm emerging: balance, diversity, harmony. The gifts of immunity are not only the absence of disease but also the presence of equilibrium. Those who never fall ill are not simply shielded, they are aligned. Their interior world is tuned to their exterior world, responding with quiet precision, never falling into chaos. This alignment may come by chance of birth, by heritage of ancestors, by richness of experience, or by intimate partnership between all three. The result is the same: resilience that feels unbreakable. One might consider them as living sanctuaries, bodies where equilibrium reigns. Outside, the world is filled with sudden outbreaks, waves of unexpected illness, unpredictable threats. Inside, their systems remain calm, like temples untouched by storm. To think of this is to imagine that health itself is a place, a homeland that some occupy more fully and more permanently than others. We journey in and out of this place, falling ill and recovering. They remain there, as though the gates never close to them. Yet, in their existence, we also see the possibilities of what medicine might seek to offer. Already, modern studies into nutrition, microbiomes, exercise, and stress point to the profound ways lifestyle shapes immunity. To learn from the resilient is to ask how environment can be shaped to bring all of us closer to unyielding strength. It is not only about rare genetic codes but about ordinary choices multiplied across years, exposure to nature, nourishment that feeds diverse bacteria, movement that strengthens the inner currents of blood, connections that calm stress responses. The super-immune show us what is possible if biology and environment act together in harmony. Let your imagination drift now to the imagery of their bodies as eternal gardens. Within these gardens, countless species of bacteria live in collaboration, balanced against one another, supporting immune defenses silently. Every meal waters the soil, every breath carries seeds, every movement stirs life. In ordinary bodies, imbalance often takes root, species lost, diversity shrinking, defenses eroding. In the rare resilient, the garden flourishes endlessly, a lush ecosystem where no invader can take dominance, where threats are absorbed into the richness of the whole. Picture the people who wander through pandemics untouched. They may not even know they are different. Perhaps they wonder at their good fortune, unaware that within them gardens bloom stronger, rivers flow clearer, defenses stand taller. They are no more divine than the rest, no more destined, but their daily life is lived with a kind of hidden grace, carried forward by a system whose harmony resists even the greatest storms. Their existence proves that health can be as continuous as breath, lived without interruption by illness, age after age. As listeners drift further into this reflection, the lesson becomes softly clear. To live resiliently is not only a science but an art. It is the art of alignment, the art of balance, the art of immersion in the world without breaking to its challenges. The resilient remind us that sickness is not inevitable, but a possibility that may or may not take form, depending on the harmony of inner and outer worlds. Their lives are living images of what health might look like if it were constant, not intermittent. And so the story continues, without boundaries, without conclusion. Immune resilience is not an endpoint but a flowing current, moving onward through generations, through environments, through mysteries yet to be discovered. Everyone alive floats within this current, some lightly, some heavily, some carried swiftly with ease, and some slowed by turbulence. A few seem to glide effortlessly, as if the movement of life itself bears them forward without resistance. These are the ones who never grow sick, the ones whose balance and strength endure. As the words soften and extend like slow waves across the sea, let your mind settle in quiet wonder. The immune system, this silent guardian, is shaped not only by the unseen patterns of genes but by every detail of the world around us. Exposure, environment, balance, inheritance all combine into a single life. For a very few, this life becomes so resilient that disease never finds its way inside. For the rest, it is a reminder that resilience can be nurtured, can be taught, can be dreamed into the fabric of tomorrow's medicine. Their mystery is not far away. It is among us, around us, within us, a quiet invitation to live in harmony with the strength life always intended. The future of health is quietly illuminated by the very people who almost never fall ill. Their existence does not remain locked within themselves, it becomes a beacon for medicine, a signal for what humanity might one day achieve if we learn to understand and replicate their strength. What they embody naturally, scientists dream of giving widely. In laboratories across the world, vials of blood from rare immune individuals are studied with reverence, each drop containing stories stretching from the past into the promise of tomorrow. Within those small samples lie antibodies, proteins crafted with exquisite precision which speak of immune systems that recognize, neutralize, and remember dangers with unmatched clarity. Already, researchers have isolated some of these rare antibodies, using them to design treatments that help millions. What one resilient person carries silently, the scientific community can now attempt to copy, amplify, and distribute, turning individual gifts into collective shields. It is a reminder that nature's secrets are not meant to remain hidden, they are invitations for discovery. The next generation of vaccines may not be imagined only as temporary protections but as deeper lessons for the body. By studying those whose immunity endures effortlessly, science may design vaccines that replicate the same durability. Instead of yearly inoculations, imagine once-in-life infusions that awaken defenses as permanent as those born within the rare immune. A future without endless cycles of reinfection becomes conceivable, where the body holds memory not for years, but for decades, perhaps for a lifetime. And it may go further than vaccines. Already, researchers think about therapies that rewrite the body's code itself. Through careful editing of genes, or through targeted delivery of immune-modulating molecules, medicine might one day shift the ordinary body closer to that perfect balance held by the resilient few. In this way, what was rare would become common, what was anomaly would become norm. Disease, which has shaped every chapter of human history, could grow smaller in scale, no longer master of destiny but a challenge gradually shrinking into obscurity. Consider the possibilities, a world where pandemics lose their terrifying reach, where communities no longer collapse under invisible invaders, where health is less fragile, life less interrupted. This is more than fantasy. It begins with observation, continues with research, and materializes in the slow accumulation of discoveries drawn from the natural wonders hidden in everyday humanity. The resilient may not know that their bodies contain the keys, but science listens quietly, patiently. Every piece of them studied becomes another step down a long path toward universal resilience. The rare immune remind us that the great library of answers is not outside of us, not alien or distant, but carried within our very veins. They remind us that the most powerful medicines may not be invented from nothing but rediscovered from truths that already live inside human variation. For all the advances of technology, the deepest insights emerge from watching what nature has already refined. Health itself becomes teacher, resilience itself becomes blueprint. In reflecting on their significance, it is tempting to stop at the scientific. Yet to do so would be to miss the wider vision. Their existence also reshapes philosophy, reshapes how we imagine the human future. For centuries, we accepted sickness as the great equalizer, a rhythm built into existence. But the rare immune reveal a different possibility. Perhaps sickness is not destiny, perhaps health more complete and more enduring is possible. Perhaps the human story need not be marked endlessly by plagues and pandemics, but instead by a gradual lessening of their power. Such ideas are no longer just hope, they are proposals backed by the evidence that resilient lives exist before us today. Medicine already walks this path in subtle ways. Immunotherapies that harness the body's own defenses to attack cancer are one reflection of the same principle, that the answers are not foreign but familiar, drawn from the innate brilliance of the immune system itself. The study of the resilient may one day refine these therapies further, teaching us how to awaken precision without collateral harm, how to sustain vigilance without burning the body. Everywhere, the lesson is the same: balance, harmony, endurance. Imagine the future as a great horizon where each person, regardless of birth, carries the strength once limited to a rare few. Children growing in that future would no longer face endless cycles of infections. The elderly might extend health into later decades without collapse into vulnerability. Hospitals might transform from places of constant crisis to centers of learning and prevention. Human life might feel less fragile, and suffering less frequent, not by miracle but by applied understanding of what already exists in human biology. Let us sit long enough with this image to feel its quiet weight. Picture a world where pandemics arrive but cause little disruption, where vaccines are crafted not in desperate speed but with deep foresight, where global fear of disease weakens as communities discover that resilience lies not in walls or borders but in the bodies of the people themselves. The future of health work is to listen to the whispers of human variation, to read the signs carried in those who live nearly untouched by illness, and to translate those signs into protections available to all. It might be tempting, as night deepens, to see this dream as distant. Yet research progresses steadily, and with each decade the gap narrows. Already scientists have mapped genetic variations that prevent certain viral infections. Already they have produced therapies derived from naturally resistant blood. Already they speak of altering immune pathways to mimic the lessons of the resilient. These are not distant speculations but current steps along a very real path. In the future, as discovery accumulates like slow-falling snow, we may find ourselves standing in landscapes of health unimaginable today. The narrative of resilience, then, is not only the story of individuals but the story of humanity itself preparing for a new era. Those who walk among us untouched by fevers and infections may, unknowingly, be the heralds of revolutions in medicine. Their quiet lives hint at what all lives might become. To walk through life with health not as a fragile gift easily lost, but as a steady presence, may someday be the shared condition of all. What we envy in the few today may be celebrated as the ordinary tomorrow. And so, as words continue slowly, gently, let this imagery guide you into stillness. The resilient among us are not distant mysteries to admire but signals of coming possibility. Their biology is not unreachable but approachable. Their story is not isolated but collective. They are messengers of what lies ahead, messages written in blood and cell, promising that one day humanity will learn to give itself the same protection they carry effortlessly. As you lie listening, allow the rhythm of possibility to rest within you. Imagine futures drawn not with fear but with balance. Picture medicine teaching bodies to remember danger as precisely as the rare immune do. Picture societies rising not in panic against disease but in confidence, grounded in the quiet knowledge that resilience is shared. This is no fantasy. It is the unfolding of the narrative we are already living, the gentle direction of this century, the inheritance of all our survival written in brighter chapters yet to come. And in this, perhaps, rests the softest comfort of all. That the people who never fall ill are not only extraordinary individuals but reflections of what humanity might one day become. Their gift is not only survival for themselves but inspiration for the species. As science listens, as time unfolds, as discoveries accumulate patiently, the extraordinary may dissolve into the ordinary, and resilience may settle like a steady light over all of us. Until then, their story remains a lullaby of strength, soothing us into rest as night unfolds, promising that the body is capable of more than sickness, and the future brighter than the fragility we carry today. The long story of resilience comes now to its final chapter, yet it is not an ending but merely a pause, a gentle resting point in a journey that continues beyond words, beyond time. For as long as humanity has existed, sickness has been our shadow, walking beside us, shaping the course of lives and histories. But as you have heard tonight, woven quietly among the fragile are those who stand as beacons of uncommon strength, men and women whose bodies resist in ways that science strains to understand, whose immune systems hold harmony that seems unshakable. They are not myth, they are not distant legends, but ordinary people touched by extraordinary biology. To reflect upon them this long while has been to follow a path through darkness and light, through suffering and survival, through the mysteries of science and the poetry of being alive. Their existence bridges every theme we have traveled, the complexity of cells, the memory of evolution, the whispers of genetics, the power of environment, the balance of health, and the promise of tomorrow. The rare immune are not simply a curiosity. They are maps of possibility. By their example, we see pathways forward into futures where sickness may not weigh so heavily on humankind. Let us remember that everything they embody is an extension of humanity itself, not apart from it. We carry within ourselves the same blueprints, the same immune architectures, sometimes less precise, sometimes less balanced, but still the same in essence. The discontinuities of chance have given a few sharper talents, clearer defenses, but their gift is not foreign to us. It is kinship. It is reminder. Within humanity lies both fragility and resilience, joined inseparably. The resilient few show us the higher notes our shared song is capable of reaching. As the narrative of this night draws onward, let us slow our gaze, softening from the precise details of science into the wider canvas of existence. Imagine for a moment the entire species of humanity as a single body. Some parts feel weakness, some parts surge with vitality. And within this body, rare sparks of extraordinary resilience glow. These sparks may beat faintly and quietly, yet they are bright enough to guide the whole forward. Each survivor, each resistor, each untouched figure is a lantern in the wider darkness, and together, they light the path through history's shadowed corridors. The promise is not merely to admire them but to learn. The way forward in medicine is to listen with patience, to read the signs carefully, to translate resilience into cures, into vaccines, into therapies that all may carry. Already, pieces of this dream unfold in laboratories, in journals, in hospitals where the insights of immunity transform into protections. Yet what lies ahead is larger, the vision of a world where illness weakens, suffering diminishes, and the health of the rare becomes the health of the many. To sit with this vision in the quiet of night is to feel a deep calm. It is to breathe slowly and recognize that humanity has never been stagnant. Always, we have evolved, we have adapted, we have overcome. Each virus that spread, each plague that scarred, each sickness that knocked us down became not only tragedy but teacher. Over time these lessons shaped bodies with resilience, and from that inheritance emerges the rare immune. They remind us that survival is not arbitrary. It is learning, it is memory, it is progress inscribed in flesh. And so the story we have told tonight is not merely about avoiding sickness, but about the deeper meaning of health. To be healthy is not only to lack disease, but to dwell in balance, to live in harmony with both the inner world of cells and the outer world of environment. The immune resilient embody this harmony. Their strength is not brute force but equilibrium. They remind us that true vitality is quiet, unnoticed, uncelebrated because it does not falter. As the words continue, let us enter more dreamlike reflections. Picture humanity walking through time as travelers across a darkened plain. Around them the storms of disease rise, waves of panic and loss echo, yet among them walk those untouched, carrying torches of unseen fire. Their resilience gives courage to others, their survival ensures continuity, their biology builds futures. These torches, small and scattered as they may be, pass their light generation to generation, until the plain itself grows less dark, until the storms subside, until health expands across the horizon like dawn. If one listens closely, even the imagery becomes soothing, immune cells like stars, memory like galaxies, antibodies like flowing rivers of light. The body is a cosmos, each person a universe of defenses and harmonies. In the rare immune, that cosmos is brighter, steadier, clearer. To picture it is to drift into wonder, to allow the thought to wash gently across the mind as night carries you toward rest. And what is rest, if not another form of resilience? Sleep itself is the body's renewal, the quiet repairing of defenses, the slow weaving of strength for tomorrow. As you lie listening, your own immune system is at work, balancing, restoring, protecting. You, too, are part of resilience, though at times more fragile, at times more vulnerable, but always capable of balance, of defense, of healing. To know this is to feel less alone, to feel linked to the stories of survivors and resilient figures throughout time. The journey tonight has been long, not rushed, but drifting, carrying us from the deep structure of cells into the poetry of entire civilizations. We have listened to the rare immune as symbols of possibility, as guardians of resilience, as living gifts for the future of medicine. And now, as the narration bends toward its conclusion, it does so slowly, gently, with gratitude for the quiet marvel of simply being alive in bodies that strive daily to protect us. The people who never fall ill will remain rare for now. But they are not alien. They are us, reflected more clearly, perhaps a glimpse of us yet to come. Their lives whisper promises, that resilience can be taught, that balance can be spread, that one day children may grow into adults who do not know cycles of illness as we do. What was exceptional may become ordinary, what was extraordinary may become universal. Already, their existence has changed medicine. In times ahead, it may change humanity itself. And so, as I close this long story of resilience, let me leave you with peace. To all my audience, to each dreamer listening in the stillness, I thank you for walking this path of wonder and reflection with me. As you prepare to rest, know that your body, too, carries extraordinary defenses, always at work, always watching, always protecting. Health dwells within you more deeply than you know. May these words accompany you gently into sleep. May the thought of resilience be a comfort, the vision of future health a soft horizon across your dreams. May you rest tonight in the calm assurance that strength lies not only in the rare few but in the potential of humanity as a whole. Good night, dear listeners, and thank you for sharing this journey. May you sleep peacefully, may you awaken renewed, and may you carry forward the quiet, enduring hope of resilience.